everyone, this is Tamara from shelfaddiction.com, and welcome to episode 13, an interview with Sara Dobie Bauer, a Book Chat Live author feature. This is one of my many live podcast interviews where I'm exclusively chatting with the talented authors that will be in attendance at Rust City BookCon, locally here in Michigan, this upcoming August. For those of you that aren't in the loop with what Rust City is, I have a link down below in the show notes, or you can go to rustcitybookcon.com. Be sure to hit that follow button on Spreaker, because every Wednesday night through the end of July, I'll be right here live with author interviews, and I know you don't want to miss it. If you're listening live right now, feel free to chime in with any book-related questions that you may have for Sara. Sara is the author of adult paranormal rom-com Bite Somebody, and this book has had tons of chatter about it, and I know you want to hear all about it. So hey Sara, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So tell me, how's the weather where you are? Because it's kind of dreadful here.
Well, I'm close to you. I'm in Northeast Ohio, so it's a nightmare. I've been sweating all day.
I know. It's crazy because I came home. We have central air, but of course, my husband, before he leaves this morning, he turns it off. So I come in, and it's freaking hot in here. So, of course, it hasn't cooled down yet, so I'm very hot right now.
We do not have central air. We live in an old house, and so we don't have central air, and my dogs just lay on the hardwood floors all day, and sometimes I think I'd like to join them.
Oh, I bet it's much cooler down there than it is sitting in a chair. Absolutely. All right, well, let's just jump right on in, shall we?
Yes,
so I always love to find out what writers are reading. As readers, we read tons and tons of books, at least as, book nerds like myself. So I'm sure you guys read just as much as we do. So if you have anything that you're reading and you'd like to share with us, please do.
I do. I'm kind of teasing you, though, because both of the books I'm reading right now aren't out yet.
Ooh.
I have advanced review copies because I review books for part of my job. So I'm reading Breath of Earth by Beth Cato, which is a steampunk adventure involving earthquakes and people who can control earthquakes called geomancers. And that's been super cool because I know Beth from living out west. And then I'm reading The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. And that one's a bit heavier. It's a lot of, it makes you think. A lot of theological thought goes into it. And but Tiffany's book comes out in a couple weeks, and Beth's book comes out in August. So keep an eye out for Breath of Earth and The Summer That Melted Everything.
Wow, that's cool. That sounds kind of interesting. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what books or maybe authors would you say have influenced your writing style?
Definitely Christopher Moore. Christopher Moore is kind of he's my dream comic author. He just does incredible comic writing, and his usually has a bit of the paranormal mixed in as well, which is probably why I love Neil Gaiman also. Neil Gaiman's writing has had a huge influence on my writing style, and also, I guess, kind of the way I look at the world. And so those are two of the authors. I think the book that has influenced me, there's two, and they're both, interestingly enough, they're both about censorship. So Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury and The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I have a real phobia of censorship, and especially when it comes to books.
Yeah.
And so both of those books have, Fahrenheit 451 has haunted me since I was a child because I was reading it really young, and I was really scared that someone was going to come and burn all my books.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And The Book Thief, came later. But similarly, I mean, they talk about the evil of censorship and what happens when we take away books. And so they really influenced me, and they've made me super, super cautious about censorship, and I'm kind of like a censorship watchdog, I think, because of those two books.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I mean, they have the whole book, banned book list and all of that. So,
Yeah.
I'm like anti-censorship too. I'll read every book that I want to. You're not going to tell me what I can read.
Well, interestingly enough, I feel like the banned books list actually has done the opposite of what it wanted to, because
Mm-hmm.
it just makes all of us rebels want to read those books more.
Indeed, yes. I mean, and it's funny because, like, I'm naturally a rule follower, but not when it comes to that. Like, no way. Like, seriously, right now, we're all, individuals. Let's make our own choices. I hate that.
Hey, good.
Yeah. So, like, do you have a couple of favorite authors outside of the few that you mentioned just now?
I do. I have too many. I really have too many. Recently, I just found Rainbow Rowell. I was very
Oh, I like her.
Yes, I was very late to that game. Someone sent me, actually Beth Cato sent me Carry On,
Mm-hmm.
and 'cause she knows I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about Rainbow going into it. I didn't know anything about her previous book called Fangirl that
Mm-hmm.
featured Simon and Baz, the characters in Carry On. I didn't know anything, so I just went into it thinking, okay, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'm going to enjoy this, and I was obsessed, and I went into like this depression when it was over because I finished it way too fast. I was like, when can I read it again? Can I start like now and read it all over?
So you actually experienced the book hangover that people talk about.
Oh, I get that all the time. Yes, because I also finished Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe
Mm-hmm.
recently. And strangely, I've been reading a lot of YA books that are dealing with homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really drawn to them lately. I don't know why. I think that I just something about these books that I've found lately dealing with homosexuality in the YA community have been so well written, and they go way beyond the issue of sexuality, and they deal with so many bigger issues. And so yeah, I finished that one, Aristotle and Dante, and had a similar crash where I was like, "Oh no, what do I do?" But it's okay though, because with Rainbow, at least she had all these other books for me to go back and read, and so I've been reading her other books now. And I read Attachments recently, and again wanted to start that one over as soon as I finished it. And my mom has it right now, and so yeah, those are my recent favorites. I've been reading some YA lately. I've been having a great time.
I love YA, and I go through cycles with YA. So I'll go, I don't know, a few months where I'm just devouring YA, and then I'm kind of like, okay, I'm done. Let me read some adult stuff, and then I'll cycle right back into it. It's funny.
I think you need to switch it up with any genre. Because I have a girlfriend who keeps calling me and she's like, I want to read more dystopian. And she's been reading dystopian straight now for like 2 years. And I just want to tell her, honey, we got to switch it up a little. Let's try something else to keep your mind fresh.
Exactly. That's why, honestly, I do not limit myself when it comes to genre. I read, romance, I read paranormal, I read historical fiction and thriller and mystery and I mean everything. I really do not limit myself. And I find that keeps things, like you said, it keeps it fresh and keeps you excited,
Well, and it improves your writing too, because you're seeing all these different genres and you're seeing different techniques used by different authors in different genres. So you're learning while you're reading, which I think is really important.
Yeah, it is actually. So yes, I agree with you. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start writing.
Well, I always kind of joke that I was born a writer, born with a pencil in my hand. And I think that's true. I think I always knew I was going to be a writer. But I also read so much when I was a kid. My parents gave me so many books, and I had such freedom with my book choices. I was reading things that I probably shouldn't have been reading at the ages. Like, I shouldn't have probably been reading Interview with a Vampire in 6th grade.
Yeah.
I don't know, that probably wasn't like the best idea, but it's turned me into the wonderful person I am now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I read so much when I was a kid, and so I immediately thought, well, I want to do that. I can write a book. And so I wrote my first full-length novel in 7th grade.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it was good. I mean, it was terrible. Let's be honest. It was awful. But I tried, and so I finished my first full-length novel in 7th grade, and I just never stopped, really. You know, even when I tried to have a corporate job for a couple years, which I did, it was like there was always this nagging sensation that I was not doing the right thing and that I was supposed to be writing. And it just never let me go. It was like some kind of disease.
Well, no, that's actually really cool because, you know, it's so hard for a lot of people, including myself, to actually figure out what you're meant to do. And that's cool that you kind of had something that kind of, I guess, nagged you into, you know, writing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I was lucky, you know, going into college, I knew what I was going to do. And yeah, so, okay, fair enough. You're right.
Yes, I would love to be doing something else, but no, that's another conversation. We'll save that for another time. So we're here to talk about Bite Somebody, which recently came out, right? What was the published date on that? Was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, it was June 21st.
So yeah, this looks like a really interesting book to me. Tell us a little bit about the story. You know, keep it general. We don't want to spoil everyone, but share a little bit.
Well, I've always read vampire books, as I mentioned with Interview with a Vampire, and I thought, okay, well, what if the image we have of vampires as these super classy, charming bloodsuckers, what if that's totally not true? What if vampires are just like us? And so I created this character of Celia, who is a newbie vampire who is totally awkward, and she thought she was going to be super hot after she got turned, and she's not. She's still the chubby, awkward girl. She's just pale and can't eat pizza anymore.
Oh.
And so she still can't talk to boys. You know, she doesn't have the strut. She's got nothing going for her. And then a boy moves in next door to her apartment, and he smells delicious. And his name is Ian, but she's kind of terrified to talk to him. And it's kind of her coming of age, because the characters are all in their early 20s, so it's a new adult novel. So it's her coming of age story, you know, figuring out how to be a vampire, how to have her first bite, how to have a romantic relationship, and how to make friends. You know, she has to make friends with other vampires, and she has to learn how to accept herself. Meanwhile, her stupid ex-vampire boyfriend shows up and threatens to destroy everything. So, yeah, that's kind of the quick version.
Okay, so where does the story take place at?
It takes place in a fictional location called Admiral Key, which is actually based on a real location called Longboat Key down in Florida. So it's literally a beach read.
That's really cool. Beach reads are perfect for summer, so it's right on time. But do tell us a little bit how you chose that locale.
Well, Longboat Key has been in my family for, I don't know, probably like 20 years. My family's been going down to Longboat Key. And I only recently started going back as an adult, which meant I could legally drink and go to the dive bars and hang out with the beach bums. And something about just the laid back attitude of Longboat Key and the beauty of it and kind of the silliness. I mean, it's just a very silly, fun, relaxing place. And I thought, oh, the irony of a vampire that lives at the beach. Because, you know, everyone goes to the beach for the sun and the beautiful turquoise water. And here's this vampire girl who lives on the beach, right, like on the beach, and she can't exactly go get a tan. You know, so I just wanted it. I wanted it in that beach community, though, because all the characters have that beach vibe. Ian, the romantic interest, he's an ex-surfer. Imogene, the sidekick, she just loves to party and drink. And so it just seemed like the perfect location. And they go to this bar called the Drift Inn in the book, which is a bar that I go to with my Aunt Susie every time we're in Longboat. It's a real bar, and it has, you know, some of the people in the bar are actually in the book. So it just felt like an homage to this place that comforts me. Every April I go back to Longboat Key, and I just feel at home there. So I thought, why not make Celia at home there too?
Oh, that's so nice. So like you really know like what you're writing about because that's like home, you know? That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what inspired you to like kind of write, you know, there's so many paranormal romances out there. What made you kind of want to put a humorous take on things and make Cecilia, you know, not your average beautiful vampire girl?
Well, that's the fun of it, because you said there are so many paranormal romances out there, and I feel like they all take themselves really seriously. And it's like, you know, life or death, and it's angst, and I just didn't want to deal with any of that. I really just wanted to have fun, and I, you know, wrote this book. I do love paranormal romance, which is why I wrote a paranormal romance novel, and I love vampires. So it just seemed like a good fit to write that genre. But adding the comedy gives it a whole new twist, because it goes in that Christopher Moore direction. You know, he is so absurd in his writing, and I embrace that same level of absurdity and ridiculousness. I just think I'm so sick of everything being so serious in the literary world. And all the books that win awards and all the bestsellers, they're so dang serious. And I just wanted something that was filled with ridiculous joy and just fun, and something you can read and laugh out loud and just have fun.
You know, that's awesome. And you know, that's like another kind of reason why it's perfect for summer. You know, you don't really want anything too complicated. You just want to have a good time. And, you know, personally, I love a book. And it's kind of funny when like I'm out reading, like on my lunch break somewhere, or even at my desk, and I just burst out laughing because something is just hilarious. I love when that happens. And it's like, I don't know, I get a special joy from people looking at me like I'm crazy when I burst out laughing or have some kind of crazy reaction to what I'm reading. It's awesome.
Oh, for sure. One of my girlfriends read the first draft of Bite Somebody. She's one of my first readers, and she was reading it on the subways in New York City. And she said people looked at her like she was the crazy person. Like everyone, like, you know, slowly back away from the crazy person.
That's awesome.
But she said it was fun just because she was, you know, trying to stifle her giggles and she couldn't. And that's a great thing to hear when you're trying to write comedy and you have that effect on somebody.
Oh, that's really cool. So I'm going to have to check your book out because I definitely like that. So that's a good thing.
Yes.
So before we jump into more details, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about this cover art. It's like gorgeous. You guys, if you haven't seen the cover art, there is a blog post on shelfaddiction.com that's up right now. It's at the top of the blog. You'll want to check that out and take a look at this gorgeous cover art. I don't know, it just draws you in. You know, when you're shopping in a store and they always say don't judge a book by its cover. I don't care. I would pick up that book based on that cover.
Good. The artist is her name is Amanda Davis.
Yep.
And she's so talented. I am just amazed that she just nailed it. Like they asked, my publishing house, World Weaver Press, they gave me a questionnaire basically about what do you want your cover to look like? And I said, first and foremost, I do not want to like shirtless people staring longingly at each other. Like that's not this book.
Right.
And I said, I'd really like animation. And they were like, okay. And then I swear it was like, I don't know, 4 days later, I get this email with this image and my editor and I were like, yes, oh my gosh, that's it. And it was perfect. I couldn't believe it. It was like Amanda had read my mind or something. I was so impressed.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, she did do a great job with it. It's really nice. So, while we're talking about art and photos and everything, also on my blog is a photo of you. Everybody check out this photo because, Sara, you have vampire teeth in your mouth.
I do.
Yes.
My dentist, I'm sorry, my dogs just went crazy. My husband must be home from work. But my dentist made me vampire teeth that actually slip on to my actual teeth. And I can drink with them in, I can talk with them in. And I was recently doing a photo shoot with some friends and I just, we were doing like serious, beautiful shots. And I was like, hey, can we get a couple with my fangs in? Basically, my friends are like, oh, sure, Sara, okay. They don't think I'm like a crazy person. So they're like, yes, of course. So I got a couple fantastic photos with my fangs in. It was so much fun. And I do wear them at events. And people are either really excited or really like freaked out and back away from my table. It depends.
I wonder if they think you're going to try to bite them or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's funny. Are you going to wear them at Rust City?
I'm sure I'll wear them at some point, yes.
You should wear them at one of the get-togethers when everyone's drinking. That really freak people out.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yes. Okay, so let's get a little bit back to the story. So, since it is romance, I got to ask, like, what's the heat level of Fight Somebody?
It varies depending on who you ask, which I think is, which I've learned over the past couple weeks. It's new adult, so for me, it's PG-13, but I had someone last night, I was at an event last night, and someone came up to me and was like, hey, I finished Fight Somebody. It was really sexual.
Oh.
And I was like, you thought Bite Somebody was sexual? Well, stay away from the rest of my work. You'll go blind.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I was just kind of like, because I write erotica occasionally as well, and so that's like straight R-rated. This is definitely PG-13.
Okay,
so,
I think I would agree with your rating then because I read a lot of harder things. So I think maybe for the people that are used to reading a lot of G and PG, it might seem a little worse than it is probably.
It might, but I really think PG-13 is safe. I think like people were asking if their 15-year-old could read it, and I generally think that they could, especially this is coming from me who was reading Interview with the Vampire in 6th grade, but I think it's pretty safe. I think it's pretty safe. It's fun sex. It's funny sex. Like one of the scenes that I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but there's a sex scene that happens that has so far received probably the most comments about like funniest scene in the book has been a sex scene. So if that gives you any idea.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh goodness. Okay. Awkward first sex scene probably.
I cannot say. I will not say.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Cecilia and Ian. So obviously she's instantly attracted to his smell probably, but would you say there's like insta love or insta lust going on there?
I think it's love because Celia is too naive to know about lust really. She comes to figure it out as the book continues, but I think Ian is such an adorable, harmless male character. Mm-hmm. He's boy next door hot. He's a nerd, but he's an ex-surfer, super laid back. And I think, and he just kind of rolls with the punches. And something about that behavior really draws Celia to him, I think, beyond the fact that he smells like Christmas wrapped in bacon, as is. Yes, that's one of the descriptions of Ian. I think they just see in each other. They both want real love. They don't want just sex. They don't want the fake stuff. They want real love, and they see that in each other. And they see each other's geekiness too, which I think really helps. You have to, when you love someone, there's got to be some kind of geekiness level that you both kind of agree on, to make it work. You have to be a similar level of geek, I think, to make a relationship work. And they find that in each other.
Well, that's cool. So how is Cecilia, like, personality-wise? And I mean, what I mean by that is, I love a strong, outspoken heroine. And I know sometimes it's about finding that balance where you're not, like, so strong that you're scaring away the boys. But, how does she fare in this arena?
Well, this is a coming of age story. So she starts out way different from where she ends up. She starts out so awkward, so nervous. She can barely talk to people. She's never had a proper boyfriend. She's never been on a date. She's been alone most of her life. She's always been the nerd. And she's never had real friends. And so at the beginning, she's really insecure, and she's trying. She's in therapy with Dr. Savage, her vampire therapist. So she's doing her best to come to terms with her immortality and to come to terms with just being a lonely, kind of sad little girl. Oh, and through her friendship with Imogene, who is the way more confident, powerful, frightening female character of this book, through that friendship with Imogene, Celia kind of comes out of her shell. And through Ian's love, his support of her, she also comes out of her shell. I think love does that. It makes us into better people. And she finds that out with Ian. So by the end, she's definitely not the insecure, she's still a little insecure, but who isn't? But she's not quite as insecure. She's much more confident by the ending, and she has friends, and she has love.
That's cool. So you mentioned earlier that Ian is kind of like, I guess, a harmless boy next door. So he probably isn't an alpha male. Is he more like the beta variety, where he can be a little strong at times, but he's kind of not really, hear me roar kind of guy?
He's definitely not the alpha. I think partially because Ian is the youngest of 4 brothers. Okay. And I think that has something to do with his calm, kind of laid back attitude, because he's had to deal with having 3 older brothers his whole life. And he also had to deal with a near-death experience. And so I think that both of those things, and he smokes a lot of weed, just adding that in there. So I think that all of those things put together make him he doesn't have the energy to be alpha. He doesn't care about being the tough badass. It's just not who he is. And that's part of what I love about him, is that he can just be laid back and just, sweet and, just go with the flow,
Well, that's good. I guess someone has to be. You can't always be the loud, boisterous alpha male. So that's decent. Because I definitely don't like men trying to tell me what to do. So I guess that's good. He gets points on that.
No, and we do kind of joke that actually Imogene, the female sidekick, is probably more of an alpha male than anybody else in the book.
It's funny. Like, sometimes you kind of see, like, friends that are like that more often than you think. Like, one is kind of more soft-spoken, and the other one's kind of loud and kind of take charge. And they kind of balance each other. I mean, I've seen that a lot in friends that I know. It's like, oh, your best friend's the loud one, you're not the loud one, and they kind of feed off each other a little bit.
Well,
I guess.
it's true, and the book, strangely enough, the book is dedicated to my friend Sam, and Sam and I, when I lived in Phoenix, were very, very much two peas in a pod. And when she read it, she called me and she said, "Do you realize that you wrote me as Celia and you as Imogene?" And I was like, "No, that's not real." And then because Imogene, well, mostly I took it as a joke because Imogene's kind of abrasive, and I was like, "Oh." But then I actually read it, and I've heard it more and more that that I did write a little bit of myself into Imogene, and I did write a lot of Sam into Celia. And so in that way, I guess we kind of, in real life, my friend Sam and I had the same kind of evening out of each other. So yeah, I think that's true in real life and in fiction.
Yeah. That's cool. So tell me a little bit about, like, did you have any challenges, like, coming up with, I don't know, scenarios, or maybe doing research, or, just different aspects of this fiction world in bringing this story to life? Did you have any complications there?
I didn't really have any challenges in the way that you mean. I think the biggest challenge was when I first sent Bite Somebody to World Weaver Press. I sent it to my editor, Trish, and she adored it. And then she wrote back and said, "I love this. We can't publish it. I need you to change it to third person." Mind you, this was written as first person journal entries.
Oh, okay.
In the initial draft. And so it was a huge undertaking. And I did take a little while to think about it. I was like, will it still be as funny? Will I lose the voice? But then I rewrote it all in third person. And I'm so thankful. It turned out so much better and so much stronger. So that was a huge challenge, turning a journal into a third person novel.
Wow, that sounds like it was a big thing to do. Probably was very time consuming. How long did it take you to do that?
Well, I was moving across the country the next week from Phoenix to Ohio. So I had to get it done. I made myself get it done in like 4 days.
Wow.
It was a nightmare. I mean, my fingers ached. Like, I would have to take breaks. My husband would have to like rub my hands because I was typing so fast. I just had to retype basically the entire thing and change a lot of scenes and perspectives. And so I did it within a week because I had to move the following week. So yeah, I hurried. I was quick.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's the thing about like publishers and, editors. Like, sometimes you just have to rely on them. They want the best book possible, and so do you. And because, when you listen to them, sometimes it really works out in your favor, like in this case,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm so thankful for Trish saying that. I mean, I'm so glad she did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, that is a challenge, I'd say.
Yeah.
So you were telling me a little bit that you have a soundtrack for this title. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, everything I write has a soundtrack. Music and storytelling, for me, are very much intermixed. And so for this one, Celia and Imogene are both obsessed with 80s music. And so it had to be 80s. So, I mean, it had to have Queen because Freddie Mercury is God. It had to have David Bowie. It had to have Joan Jett. And then for Ian, there's some Dave Matthews. There's some Bob Marley. But yeah, it was really fun kind of putting together the soundtrack that would fit this book. And most of the songs on the soundtrack are mentioned in the book. So as you're reading, if you know the songs, they will probably pop into your head as they are mentioned. But mostly 80s, because there's a lot of 80s going on in this book.
That's cool. So this is present day, right? The book is present day?
It is, yeah. It
Okay.
takes place now, but um, you'll understand why it's 80s as you read.
Okay. That's interesting. Like, I like the 80s. I really do, but I was really young in the 80s, so
Well,
I had to check out the website that I have linked in the show notes to listen to some of the music on the soundtrack, because I'm like, oh yeah, I have to listen for myself, because a lot of the things that you had told me yesterday didn't immediately ring true. I'm like, oh, I don't know that song. And then I had to listen. Oh yeah, I do recognize that song after all, that type of thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep, cool. So is there anything else that you would like the readers to know about Bite Somebody?
Well, I think just if you want to laugh and have ridiculous joy for a couple days as you read a book, this is the book for you. And it's such an important book for me because it's a coming of age story, and I felt like I've been coming of age promoting it, and having my first book published has been huge. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's it about Bite Somebody.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what are you working on now? Like, do you have any future projects that you're tackling following this one?
Well, the Bite Somebody sequel comes out next summer. So there is a sequel, and the sequel is finished. I'm doing the rewrites right now. So you can look forward to that next year. And then I'm doing a 3-part novella series about magic and romance with another publishing house. We haven't done the official announcement yet, so I won't say too much about it. But I'll be starting work on that, final rewrites on that next week. So it's busy.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. So is this so Bite Somebody, is that just going to be a duology, or is there going to be a trilogy or series, or?
Only a duology.
Okay.
At least that I know of.
Okay. Well, you never know. They may say, Sarah, we need you to write another book, and you're going to say, okay.
Oh my gosh. I can't think about it yet. I can't think about it.
Okay. So there are always aspiring writers in the audience, and I know they always love to hear from published authors. So do you think you have any advice to share with them?
Don't give up, ever. You're going to want to give up all the time because you're going to get rejected all the time, but don't give up. Also, write for you. Don't write for anybody else. Don't try to write the next bestseller. Just write what you want to write and have fun writing what you want to write. And if someone else happens to like it too, then you're very lucky, as I have been with Bite Somebody. And the last bit of advice is kind of a joke, but don't listen to advice. Because everyone's going to tell you something, and sometimes you just got to stay in your own head and ignore everybody else.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's kind of like you can hear it, but take what's relevant to you and leave the rest, because everyone's got an opinion, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Definitely do not. If you took every bit of advice you ever heard in your life, you would be so confused. So yes, pick and choose what fits you best.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about Rust City, since that is literally around the corner. It's next month.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's next month already. I feel like I've been talking about this for a while, but not that long. It's kind of random. I can't believe it's next month.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so, okay, obviously you'll have Bite Somebody. Will you have anything else along with you? Like, maybe you wrote some short stories and things too, right?
I've written several short stories. I will only have Bite Somebody at Rust City, but I am open to talking about any of my short stories if anyone wants to.
Okay, awesome. So tell me, what are you most looking forward to during Rust City?
Well, I'm excited about the panels. I mean, there are a couple panels that I'm really looking forward to. There's one about character chemistry, which is something that I've been told I'm very good at, is giving romantic chemistry to two people. But there's also one that could get heated. There's one that's called Romance versus erotica versus porn. And it's such an interesting conversation trying to define the different genres and kind of like we were talking about with the heat levels earlier, is trying to figure out where your work fits and what you're writing for. And also I'm excited because we have the paranormal romance meet and greet is Friday, and we haven't finalized anything yet, but we've been talking about maybe doing like a night circus carnival theme.
Oh, I love that book. That would be so fun.
Well, we're working on it, but I'm hoping we'll figure something out because all of us paranormal romance authors, we're crazy. We got to stick together, so.
So what does that make us readers of paranormal romance? Because that's like my main genre. I love it. I can't get enough. It's crazy.
Oh, well, you're a little crazy too, but it's good. Like it.
I'll take it. Awesome. So hopefully you'll get those topics. I really like all the ones you mentioned, especially the romance versus erotica versus porn, because like we were saying earlier with like the heat level, it's so subjective. One thing to one person might be total romance and someone else thinks it's porn. Because side note, just a little quick story, I was talking to an author online, and I had just got finished noticing that other people had called her book erotica. So I said, oh, well, maybe we could do a podcast about erotica. And she said, my book is romance. It's not erotica. I said, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't get, some authors get really touchy about if you call it erotica. They're like, man, it's not it. And I don't really get why they get so angry. I'd just be like, hey, at least people are talking about my book,
Yeah, to me, that's not a bad thing, but, some people are sensitive about it, I guess.
Yes, they are. I have found that as well.
Oh, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh, excuse me, sorry.
Oh.
Oh, goodness. So are you familiar with the area that Rust City is in, Troy, Michigan?
Well, vaguely. I mean, I've been to Detroit before. I grew up in Toledo, so.
Yeah. Well, there's tons of stuff to do around in Troy, so you'll never be bored. And I'm sure with all the paranormal romance authors, you guys will definitely keep yourselves entertained.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tons of bars, shopping, cool stuff. It's a good area, so you won't be bored.
All right, good.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's it for that part. And now the fun stuff, the lightning round. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, I'm ready.
So just to recap the instructions for everyone out there, this is 60 seconds, 60 questions. Of course, don't worry about it. Most of us don't get to 60 questions, but some are book related, some are not. You have some open-ended questions and some A or B questions. And if you get an A or B question, you have to answer one or the other. You can't say both. You can't say neither. You have to choose.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to start the timer so that I don't go on and on, because I'll be asking questions for 2 minutes if I don't time myself.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Favorite alcoholic mixed drink?
Absinthe.
Oh. Android or Apple?
Apple.
Series or standalone books?
Standalone.
Audiobook or bookish podcast?
Oh, audiobook.
If you could pick one superpower, what would it be?
Flying.
Oh. What is your typical Starbucks order?
Chai tea.
Outlander or Game of Thrones?
No, neither. Outlander, fine.
Oh. Bookstore or library?
Bookstore.
Immortal Gods or Fairies?
Immortal Gods.
Insta-love or insta-lust?
Insta-lust.
Cliffhanger or realistic ending?
Oh, cliffhanger.
TV or movies?
Movies.
One more. Sweet or salty?
Salty.
All right. Ooh, see? Yay, that was fun. You answered fast. Usually people like tra-la-la along, like they have to mull over it.
No, I wanted to set records today.
Yes, I think you answered the most, actually. I should go back and count later. Okay, so thanks for doing that. I always love doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have anything, last tidbits you'd like to share before we sign off for the night?
Bite Somebody is about love. So love the people around you. Tell them every day. And much love and thanks to my husband, Jacob.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, thank you. It was nice talking.
You too. Thanks for having me. And everybody go bite somebody.
Yes. Okay, everyone. Be sure to follow Sara all over social media and pick up a copy of Bite Somebody and start that book today. The links are below in the show notes. Before you go, be sure to hit that follow button on Spreaker, the only place where you can listen live, or subscribe and listen later on iTunes or the Google Play Store. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy reading. Bye, guys.